Wagwan, everyone. I hope you're doing well and welcome back to Tereak Talks. And this one is a special one. It's one that I haven't done for a while. Talking about a transfer that's been popular and notorious, and it's been a whirlwind. And just when you think you've seen everything in football, something like this pops up, and I'm here to discuss my thoughts as an Arsenal fan. And if you don't know, if you are new to the channel, I am an Arsenal fan, so this is an Arsenal fan's perspective, and I've looked at it deeper, and and we'll get into it. We'll get into everything. But I hope you're doing well, people. Thank you to everyone who is locked in right now. And just before I run through and give you my thoughts and feelings on everything, I just want to big up yourself, Tezzy. Big up Tezzy May in the place. Big up King. Hope you're keeping well. And we'll get into your comments as well, people. So don't forget, make sure you get them coming in. I want to hear your thoughts and we'll definitely have a discussion. But first, I'm going to discuss my thoughts. And let's get the facts out the way first whilst we're at it. And I'm sure you've all heard the news by now. And if you're watching this video, you definitely know it by now, as the news broke out yesterday. I think it was Fabrizio Romano that first reported it, and he had it as an exclusive, but then so many more credible journalists followed afterwards, and David Ornstein outlined the figures, the reported figures, and the contracts, and so much more. And as you can see, if you can't see, if you're listening, Chelsea have reached an agreement with Shakhtar Donetsk for Mykhailo Mudryk. 70 million euros plus 30 million in add-ons, a 7+ year contract, so more than 7 years, by the way, people. Agreed, leaving Turkey for London to undergo medical, not signed yet, but done deal. But he is there today and he's on his way there, and yeah, that's almost guaranteed. And Chelsea hijacked the transfer for Mudryk, which has been a saga, and one of the biggest transfer sagas we have seen, really, and definitely what I've experienced as an Arsenal fan. Initially, when I first saw this, my thoughts and feelings were a bit different to how I am feeling now. And initially, when the news broke out, I was actually getting ready to go out and have a meal with some friends and chill and relax and have a good Saturday night out with some good friends. And I was getting ready, and then I just thought, let's have a look on Twitter. Just have a look. I've been surfing Twitter for the past probably about 3 weeks or so now because of this Mudryk deal and other deals that Chelsea have stolen as well. So I've been really on it of late and probably spending too much time on Twitter. And the news broke out, and I saw it for the tweet from Fabrizio Romano, the exclusive that Chelsea were flying there. And I thought, to put a bid. Oh no, I had that sinking feeling, because having spoken to people within the game, and from the agent's point of view, and you listen to a lot of journalists speak on these things, when a club puts a bid in, they are confident of getting the player on the personal terms. They are confident of that. So when I saw the news, and Arsenal fans were saying, don't panic, it's all right, let's be calm, panic started setting in, because just of how the business goes, clubs aren't willing to put a bid in for a player unless they feel like they can get him. And people may look at Rafinha in Chelsea, and there was a feeling. And by the way, if Barcelona didn't put the money down that Leeds wanted, and if it wasn't accepted in the end, I'm sure that Rafinha would be a Chelsea player. But his preference was always his preference was always Barcelona, and the money wasn't a big factor, which we'll definitely talk about in here as well. So my initial thoughts and feelings as it was breaking and developing, I was on my phone throughout the night with my friends, and I'm sure they were probably looking at me thinking, why is he spending so much time on his phone, and out, and why is he being so antisocial? But I couldn't. I felt the urge to keep checking as the stories were developing. There was inconsistencies in the reporting, tweets were being deleted and whatnot. But the first thought that sank in was disappointment. It was, oh no, here we go again. This isn't the first time we've went down this road as Arsenal fans, and it was hard. It was because this one felt like it was almost certain, and we have felt like similar before, where we think we might get this player. There has been interest shown, and what we're hearing from the journalists is that it's going to happen. But this one felt like a certain, for sure. I can't even get my words out in terms of that. And as the news broke, it was hard, and I was feeling disappointment. And I was thinking, the first thing that you think of as a fan, the first thing that you do, and you have to kind of talk to yourself afterwards, is what have we done wrong? What haven't we done? But then as the figures started to come out, it was starting to say, right, is this something that we're we're not doing right? But then you see the transfer fee and you're thinking, right, well, that's not the transfer fee. There's not too much disparity to what we offered Shakhtar Donetsk. And that's the crazy part about it, was the reported figures is that we offered 70 million euros, which is 62 million pounds, plus 25 million in add-ons. But Arsenal were just discussing the structure. That's why Edu flew out to Poland. That's what was heard earlier in the day. But then Chelsea, 70 million euros plus add-ons, the 30 million, so 5 million extra overall in euros and even less in pounds. And that's where I was like, hang on, have we really messed up this because of certain how we're structuring this deal, and because we're not willing to pay as much money up front, and we're trying to really protect ourselves, and can't blame the club for doing that. But is that what we're trying to do? And Chelsea are willing to offer more up front than we are. And are we trying to configure installments in some cases, like we have seen with the Pepe deal and whatnot? But then it broke out in terms of the wages, and let's be honest, they're never 100% accurate. Of course, everything gets spoken about with Eddie and Nketiah's contract, but if you have a look at it and you have a look into some detail, it's up to 100k a week, and I'm sure this is probably up to the 200ks and whatnot. Unless you're involved in the deal, we're not really going to know the true figures, but we know that it is significantly higher than what Arsenal were going to offer. And this is where my feelings have now calmed down. And my thoughts now are different. And I'll tell you my thoughts. And that is disappointing in the player, and disappointing that we're not getting the player. But I'm nowhere near as angry with the club or as some people are. If you are angry with the club, and if you don't think it's right, get in the comments, people. I may even get you on towards the end, and we'll definitely have a discussion about it. But that's why we lost out on Mudryk. Of course, Shakhtar accepted the offer, and we still haven't heard, by the way, that our offer was rejected from Shakhtar. It was still on the table, and it's probably still there. If there was anything that happened, where any complication, where Todd Burley decides to do a madness like he's done with the Enzo Fernandez and pull out of the transfer, and not the Arsenal offer still there, and they could go and reject it and accept it if needs be. But this is definitely an issue, and in terms of Chelsea with the wages that they're putting in, and that's why we've lost out for me, because the player head has been turned through speaking to Potter. That news has broke out, and he's starting to believe in the project and what Chelsea are offering him, and how much they're offering him is, you can't turn away from that, and you have to look at it, and you're like, whoa. And me looking at it, and I'm not blaming Mudryk, and I'm sure there's a lot going on in saying, the player who's twerking so much for us. He did an interview with Vlada Zinchenko. He did one with Ben Jacobs as well, talking about Arsenal. The Zinchenko one, and Zinchenko's wife, when he was talking about, I'd rather play for Arsenal than Real Madrid. I'd rather, by that meaning, I'd rather be given a chance and starting for Arsenal than be a bench player for Real Madrid. And then there's so many posts that he was liking and posting us on his story, talking about Arteta as a coach and whatnot. There was so much going into it. And I've never seen a player do that as hard. And even when in the summer, when we were chasing Rafinha, it was clear, and Deco put out, and that he was definitely, his preference was to go to Barcelona, but you never saw anything like this. And that is Barcelona Football Club, which a lot of South Americans and Brazilians highly respect. And that's the dream. That is the dream of every South American footballer, whether in Brazil or Argentina or in Colombia, anywhere. for anywhere with the Latin American countries is to play for the giants of those. Mudryk saw the project, he liked it. Arsenal wanted him from the summer, by the way, but the only reason we didn't put the eventual bid in is because we was fixated on trying to sort out the problem with Thomas Partey and El Nene's injury at the time and tried to get Douglas Luiz, and we prioritized that instead. And we'll talk about that later on as well. But the reason we lost out, we didn't offer the money that Shakhtar wanted in the way, so the bid wasn't accepted, and the wages with the contract involved. I do not blame Mudryk. This is someone who's reportedly earning between 3 and 4K or whatever in that range a week in pounds and what he's earning at Shakhtar Donetsk. And that money and that contract for a 22-year-old who's going to be having agents and representatives by his side, and, you know, Shakhtar feeding him, the club that give him the opportunity, they're going to be telling him this is what we value at, and this is what you can do. We believe you can do this. You are one of the best players in the world, and you deserve to go for this amount of money. And the agents would surely be telling him, because, you know, it's a business at the end of the day, and they're going to say, you're not getting anywhere near this money at Arsenal, and let's protect you in the future. If at the end of the day, you're still going to go in the Premier League, you're still going to go to a champion. I know they're in the Champions League right now, but they're in a mess currently. You're still going to go to a top club that are willing to spend money, and I'm sure that they will get back into the Champions League with how much they're spending and the players that they get in there, and who do have a progressive manager that will play good football and those things. And this is exactly, you know, what what would be fed to him, and you cannot blame that for the player. That's why my blame is not on Mudryk, even though there was doubts creeping in terms of how he's behaving, and a lot of people voiced their concerns about that, and were right to. And it was something that, yeah, as an Arsenal fan, I appreciated, but then looking at it holistically as a fan, as a football fan and a man, that's not how you would want an Arsenal player to be behaving if he wanted to move away to a Barcelona or a Real Madrid, completely disrespecting the club in that sense. And I'm not playing Captain Hindsight and saying that, but those were thoughts and things that could sway. And at the end of the day, football is a business. Who's to say that? Who knows? And I'm not doing Mr. Conspiracy Theorist here, that let's make your affinity and your love for Arsenal clear, because we know that other clubs are interested. We know Chelsea are going to be willy-nilly, and there's going to be other clubs that will be willing to pay. And if they let them try to convince you, and you can have that as your priority, you can give Chelsea the figures. This is what Arsenal are willing to offer us. We've got personal terms agreed. But Chelsea, if you can convince me with your project and financially, there's the opportunity there. That's why I'm not blaming Mudryk. That's why we lost out. 7+ years. That is. There's benefits for Chelsea, of course, if he smashes it and he goes crazy, and Chelsea end up back in the Champions League, or he has a great career and he ends up being the next Eden Hazard. Then it's brilliant, because they're able to tie him down, and they don't have to give him an increase in wages from now until he's 29 now. He's contracted until he's 29. So that's crazy, a 22-year-old to have that. And they won't actually need to increase by that much. But they've left themselves with a huge problem elsewhere. And this is a problem that we can definitely speak on as Arsenal fans and Manchester United fans especially. If you're giving Mykhailo Mudryk that amount of money, the agent will know, and the club and people within the club will understand, and they will hear murmurs and whispers. For someone who has 30+ appearances in the professional game for Shakhtar Donetsk, a handful of Champions League appearances, which he has done excellently well, has yet to score a goal for his country, but has performed well, and we're seeing it against Scotland and whatnot, but yet to score a goal and really have anything tangible to say, and that is a massive, massive risk. And it's something that is the risk worth the reward? We'll only find out at a later date. And we know as Arsenal fans where we've overpaid for players like a Benjamin White, like a Ramsdale, which was when they were initially brought in, there were thoughts. The jury was out. This isn't the signing that this isn't a signing that we would want. Why are we paying this amount of money for this player when there's other players on the market? I remember when Ben White was brought in. Why are we getting in Benjamin White when Edmund Tapsoba of Bayer Leverkusen is out there and available and has proven it in the European stages and at a high level in the Bundesliga? Those questions were there, and rightly so. And you are right to ask those questions. But Arsenal, to this day, the investment has been proven worth it, and the players' values have all increased, and even Benjamin White's to this current day. And if Arsenal were to sell him now, they could easily command a higher fee than what they paid for this, so they could turn a profit. So from a business perspective, that makes sense, and it's worked out in the end. Risk was high, the reward is greater. That may still happen. But their Arsenal clearly didn't see, and this is where we got to talk about us now. We didn't see that to be worth it. We protected ourselves with the add-ons and the structure of the deal, and we have. And I'm sure we don't really quite know the add-ons from a Chelsea perspective. Is it appearance-based? Is it achievement or incentive-based? Whereas I know at Arsenal, I can tell you that for a fact, given how much research has been done into this by some really credible journalists. Arsenal, since the appointment of Richard Garlick, have been heavily incentive-based with their contracts. E.g. Eddie Nketiah, when we hear the talk of it being up to 100k, that is with certain targets met, certain incentives, and then bonuses hit for it to amount to that much, right? And however much that may be. So Arsenal have moved to an incentive-based approach, which is why we offer players contracts and why we're in talks and on considering, and well, we are in talks with like Ramsdale and looking to extend his contract, Saliba, Saka, whatnot, and why we have improved on that sense and protecting us as the club and the player. Whereas when we're looking at Chelsea, who have a lot of players right now who are on high wages, who they are looking to ship out, and they have struggled to get rid of and get out of their club for a while, aka Tiamu Bakayoko. He's one that they have struggled to get out. If they are looking to sell Havertz and Pulisic, it won't be easy. Arsenal, we've gone through this. How many contracts have we had to cancel? How many contracts have Manchester United fans had to see get run down and players at the club and taking up a spot and wages and causing disharmony and whatnot? And my best example to show you how wages can and how financial structure is quite important to the harmony and morale of the club. My best example is Cristiano Ronaldo. And with all the reports and things that we hear that was caused at Manchester United, this is Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the greatest footballers ever to play the game, right? And score, and the greatest goal scorer. And he was a good goal scorer at Manchester United last season as well. Let's not beat around the bush. Man United's top goal scorer. What was it? 18 Premier League goals and whatnot. I can see some of your comments, guys. I love them. I'm going to definitely get into them soon. But look at how that had an effect on the club in the end. And now Manchester United and Erik ten Hag has spoken about how we need to input a wage structure at the club. Let's not exceed 200k. And the talk about David De Gea lowering his contract significantly, the wages, just to fit within that structure because he believes. Whereas even Manchester City have a wage structure and they will offer a high amount of wage for like a Jack Grealish if they feel it is worth it. And they've had to increase in certain aspects with other players, and they've lost out on players because of these things. They have. And when Manchester City see a valuation and they don't want to go past it, they won't. And my best example for this is the Cucurella deal as well. Chelsea were willing to offer more money to him and Brighton to where they couldn't say no. And look how that's working out. And that's in the short term. I'm not saying that's going to happen exactly the same for Mudryk. And he might go out there and absolutely bang. And let's say that happens, right? Where Mudryk goes out there and he succeeds. AKA, and another example is Lisandro Martinez. Martinez, let's say so far, Man United fans are really happy with his performances and the level he's playing at. And I've enjoyed watching him play. And I do think if he came to Arsenal, he would be brilliant as well. Probably just as good, if not better. And Erik Ten Hag has him playing at a high level and he's doing really well for them. However, have we failed by not getting Lisandro Martinez? Because we have got an Alexander Zinchenko. Did we fail? I'll throw that out there. Dusan Vlahovic in January. We tried to get him. We didn't get him. And we wasn't desperate. Well, I hope it's going to be different in this sense. So this isn't the greatest example because I do think we need an alternative given what we're aiming for. But was it worth it in getting a short-term fix in an Alexander Isak for an overpaying for him? And bearing in mind, apparently we were interested in overpaying to a certain extent for him, but we weren't willing to pay the release clause that was needed to get him out. But then fast forward into the summer, opportunity changes. Arsenal aren't in the Champions League, but we're still able to get Gabriel Jesus. The link, of course, with that, in him and Zinchenko, there's already a relationship being built. So I'm guessing it's easier to get players that already have that relationship. But as we've seen now, and as we've seen throughout a few transfers, players are willing to take less money to buy into the project. And these are Premier League players who have earned a lot of money anyway at Manchester City. So they're going to be financially fine in that sense. But they're willing to buy into the project. And that's where I'm calming down by my thoughts on this. And yes, I do think we've missed out on a good player. Very good. Let's not kid ourselves, guys. Mykhailo Mudryk, he would have definitely improved our squad, at the least our depth in the attacking area, the explosiveness that he has, the directness, and I like his work ethic in a way from a attacking and defensive point of view. And what I've seen on him on social media, how he's working hard in the gym, they're good signs. They're good signs into what the player has the right mentality in talking about, and he talks a very good game as well. So I do think Chelsea have got a good player in that sense, but it doesn't mean that we have failed completely. And I'll talk about it more in the conclusion, but we need to make sure we get an alternative. If Arsenal, okay, let me talk about the Kroenkes now, because this is how Arsenal are operating and why we're missing out on these targets. It's due to how the Kroenkes want to operate this football club. I don't necessarily mean this on a completely negative standpoint, so hear me out, yeah? The reason why we're missing out on players and we're not going to be overpaying or, paying beyond our valuation is because of the Kroenkes in terms of how we value, in terms of how they want the club to be run. We're going to miss out on top talents. We're going to miss out on players that certainly could make an improvement if they are highly touted around Europe and clubs are willing to go by any means necessary, that have the financial power that we don't. Like a Chelsea, like a Manchester City, a Newcastle now, a Manchester United. They're 4 clubs in the Premier League off the top of my head that will be willing to do so. And if Liverpool get a sale, who knows? They could have the same. They could definitely be the same as well. And then you still got Real Madrid, Barcelona. You got Bayern Munich, Juventus were like that. So they were more than willing to do so. So that is down on the Kroenkes. And this is where my question about the Kroenkes is, do Arsenal, in the way that we operate now, long term, not now, because right now, at this moment, at this day, of course, their history hasn't been great in terms of how much they spent, and the jury's still out until we win a trophy, of course, under them. The jury's certainly still out, or a significant trophy if we get something tangible under their reign. But even if, best case scenario, we won the Premier League and everything's great, everything's happy, we forget about the Mudryk thing. But what this conversation is now, do Arsenal have the financial capability to compete long term with the Cronkies? With how the Premier League looks to be going, it's difficult to answer this, and I think this is Liverpool's issue right now. Liverpool aren't able to get back to the, to competing at their best, and for the great work that Klopp has done because of FSG's ceiling that they've put on the club and how they run. This isn't Chelsea, of course. They're a mess right now, and their scattergun approach to transfers isn't going to do them well in the long term in terms of what I'm talking about and creating that harmony and that togetherness. They may win the odd Champions League or Premier League trophy like they did previously, and they will have success. They can have success in that, right, just because of pure quality. But are they going to have what Manchester City have? I'm not too sure. Not the way that they're operating right now, where Manchester City, even though they're not performing at their best, and of course yesterday, they're going to be in and around and all the trophies and have this sustained period of dominance throughout the league. But Arsenal, we don't compete at that table. We don't. We simply don't. And it's not because if we feel like we want to overpay for a player, we will. And if we feel that risk is going to be worth it, we weigh our risk. We're very stringent and we're quite cautious in our approach in how we do so. And I think it's more to do with how we've been burnt previously. Oh, sorry about that. With how we've been burnt previously. And even successes like Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who was a success at Arsenal for a period. But then we offered him the absolute bag, right? And this was to someone who was at an age where his peak, he hit the peak of his powers. We gave the man a contract based on what he had done, not based on what we really believe he's going to do. And let's say the club did believe he was going to do that. The risk was great. The reward was good. But we are very much looking in a way of a risk versus reward strategy. That question will always remain, and it will remain for a while. Do we have the financial capability to compete long term against these types of super clubs who are out here playing Football Manager? We'll have to wait and see. But I'm not completely mad at the Cronkies for this, because I like this clear operation that we have. I like this clear structure, this clear financial way of, guys, we look at things in terms of what the level that we're buying you at and how much we're willing to offer this player individually. The transfer fee is not the issue. That's not the issue for me. The transfer fee isn't. It's more to do with the wages and how much we're offering to the player, because that's what's going to affect us long term. The transfer fee definitely could as well, if it means that we're having to scrimp and save because of the way that we are ran, and our frustrations won't be at Edu if that was the case. It won't be at Arteta. It won't be at Vinay. It will be at the Cronkies for not allowing us to compete against the big boys in the transfer market by spending hundreds of millions year on year and missing out on certain players and not able to boost the team. So that's why I asked that question. But I like the way that our financial structure is in place and clubs are going into that. It's kind of weird at the moment because Chelsea are the only team that are really breaking that. Even a Newcastle United, ladies and gents, Newcastle United haven't done that yet. And Newcastle United can blow any team out of the water in terms of their approach. This is why it's weird and it's crazy and it's weird how Chelsea are operating. It is weird how they are. And as Peony says right here, as I can see, sorry, I just picked up this one. Big up yourself, Peony, because it links in terms of exactly what I was going to say. Chelsea will suffer long term. And do you know why that they will suffer long term? Because is this sustainable how they're approaching it? If Chelsea are going to go like this throughout Todd Burley's reign and approach it in this way, it's not about the transfer fees, it's about the wages offered. If you're a player, if you're an agent now, let's talk about you're an agent of a player who plays in a top 5 European league that's performing well, commanding a lot of interest, and Arsenal are involved, but now Chelsea come into the equation. Right. Your reputation is, I'm getting a bag here. I'm sorted. Like, if Chelsea are here and I care about my future in terms of my family and feeding and I come from out of nowhere, I'm getting a bag. My agent's licking his lips. He's going to talk about, right, let's talk money now. Let's talk these cents. It's crazy. I want my player to have this long-term contract. I believe he's of a great value to you. You want him so much. I believe my player is better than such and such, and he might even have the accolades and the achievements and the international appearances and this reputation to back it up. But then the players within Chelsea are talking about, right now, I need a new contract. I'm performing better than this player. I'm a starter. I have more minutes over this player. I need a contract to match that. It's causing such a big divide, and that's the domino effect of it long term. Unless Chelsea are willing to operate like this forever, essentially, we'll have to wait and see. And that's why I do believe they will suffer long term because of that. And do they look into a player in terms of their mentality anywhere near as much as what we do? Do they examine them in that sense? You've got to say right now, no, they do not, because they have failed. Their players have failed in the transfer window so far to date, haven't they? The summer where they spent 200, nearly 300 million on, failed. Aubameyang, that short-termism. Sterling, the motivation in there. Sterling's not been at the level as he was at Manchester City. And what's one of those factors? Did he go to Chelsea for the money, for that bag to protect himself? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. He's moved back to London. Did he go to Chelsea for the right reasons? Is Mudryk going to Chelsea for the right reasons? We'll have to wait and see. I'm a fan of Mudryk, so I think that he genuinely believes himself in that. I can be one of the best players in this team right now, yeah, and I can take this team to the next level, and I'm willing to work hard and put my head down. He might do that because I think he was willing to try and break into the Arsenal team, and that's why he was happy with us. But that's talking about the ownership of Chelsea and the direction and the structure that they've got. Thoughts on Edu? My thoughts on Edu? I'm not blaming him. I've talked about Kroenke. He can only work with what he can do. My only concern with Edu is how long he's taking to make these certain decisions. And we are dragging these things through the transfer window when we're taking ages on these certain things and probably spending too much time, because we have shown Vlahovic, we haven't always had an alternative. Vlahovic, we didn't get an alternative. People may say that ultimately cost us top 4, etc. It did. We got Jesus, so I'm not completely complaining. Rafinha, we were interested in him. We was waiting around. We was kind of hanging there in the shadows, and we wasn't able to get an alternative there. Injuries happen. We wasn't able to secure a signing in that position. And it has detrimented Arsenal in certain areas. That's why I'm cautious. I'm not completely blaming him, but my feelings may change by the end of the window if we do not bring an alternative in. If Arsenal are going to operate in this way, where we won't go above and beyond, and we won't take that massive financial risk on certain players in terms of their transfer fee, because if we would have paid the transfer fee, guys, I think we would have got him. I think we'd have got the player. If we would have paid what essentially Shakhtar wanted, I think we would have got the player. And of course, there's a knock-on effect on that in terms of how we approach each and a different player in the transfer market. But if we're not willing to do that, then we certainly have to have alternative targets that we say, right, this is what we value Mudryk. This is what we're going to pay for him. And we're not willing to pay that money because I can get cheaper elsewhere. I can get value for money better elsewhere. That's the only way that I'll accept taking that. And that's why I'm being patient in this sense. And I'm not too angry at Eddie if we feel that way. If we feel that I'm not paying that money that you want for Mudryk because I feel that is above the valuation that we can get for another player who I've spoken to, who have had feelers to see if he's interested in the club and how much I know that this club may be willing to accept for this player, given how much they bought him in for and whatnot, and the situations there. If we get I know we're linked to Rafinha. I can't see that happening, but if let's say Rafinha, a Leao, if we spend that money and we say, right, I feel we can get better value for a Rafael Leao, how realistic that may be. He's in contract talks with AC Milan right now, but they're just names out there. I didn't think we was going to get Zinchenko. And look at that, and look how that's proven. I didn't think we was going to get Gabriel Jesus in January, especially if you'd have said we're not finishing in the top 4, but we're still going to get Gabriel Jesus. Guys, let's look at this. There's some brilliant comments right here that I want to get through as well, because I'm loving the chat that we've got in here. So that's my thoughts on Edu. And Arteta as well, just to wrap it up, and then I'll get into your comments, and then I'll definitely have this discussion because you guys are killing it here. Smash the like button if you're enjoying it, people. Get your questions in, and let's talk about these even more. Arteta, I'm sure he's certainly disappointed because his role at the club isn't what Edu's is. It's not what Kroenke's is. He just wants to work with the best players, or the players that he feels are best for him. So I am sure he is disappointed, and I'm sure he feels let down to a certain extent. And another reason why I'd say that is because he's come from Manchester City, where if we feel like you're that man, Manchester City felt Jack Grealish was that man, certainly overpaid. All the fans right now were talking about it, yada, yada, yada. But if Pep Guardiola wanted him, he got him. Haaland, how much they're willing to pay him in terms of wages and whatnot, wanted him, got him. So he's come from that environment where he saw Pep Guardiola get what he wanted. And if he really wanted it that bad, any means necessary, let's go and do it in terms of a transfer fee. And then the wages will be there. And so I'm sure he feels that way. And if Arteta goes on to win the Premier League and he goes on to be this success that I believe this man can be, then he might be tempted at some point to go. We're not going to get another Arsene Wenger in terms of that length, but he might be tempted to go. It just depends totally on how Arsenal operate in then. And if we do reach the pinnacle, are we going to adapt? Are we going to move with the times? But this man, he deserves our backing. And I do think the club have backed him. Let's not pretend that they haven't backed him at all. Let's not pretend they haven't. When the jury was out, knives were at his back, who was there protecting him? It was the club. So let's not pretend that they don't back him. Let's not pretend that they've not given him X amount of money. Let's not pretend that we've axed players out the squad through Arteta. Let's not pretend that was the case. Aubameyang, watch the All or Nothing documentary. The club, the hierarchy, I'm not sure this is the right decision, man. This is our captain. This is someone that we've given a contract under your time and you wanted to keep him, but you feel this way. I'm not too sure about this. And as you said, Eddie right there, Arteta, let's keep him. We need Eddie. I want to keep him. We'll give him that contract. They have backed him for sure. No questions about that. That's fine. So it's just about, I'm talking about in the future, and that kind of links him to the Kroenkes. Do we have the financial capability to compete long term? And long term, if Arteta feels that way and he will have suitors elsewhere, he may consider that. This man is taking us to a next level. We've got Tottenham later on today. This is why I'm doing this, because I didn't want to spend the whole watch along or so talking about this subject. I'm back. I'm behind this man. And whatever player we bring him at this door, whatever player comes to this club, I'm confident that he wants. And whether they succeed or not, whether there be a Willian Lokonga or a Benjamin White, a Ramsdale, a Gabriel, a Thomas Partey. Yeah, Thomas Partey was he? Yeah, brought under his time. Took time. Gave him that time. Look at the level he's at now. An Erdegaard. Yeah, look at these players now, people. Yeah. Serious. Whatever player we get in this transfer window and the next, I trust Arteta to work with him, because he's so focused on that. What's in between these two ears, that's what he's focused on. If you've got the right mentality and you've got the desire to play for this club, you will succeed. And as long as you work hard, and I'm sure they will, if Arsenal are willing to make that an outlay, a financial outlay in that extent, which is why I was disappointed in the Mudryk, because we were willing to overpay, guys. We really were. And guys, just before last thing, it'll be 2 seconds and then we'll get into your comments. Conclusion: we need alternatives. All this talk I'm saying right now is good, and I'm being patient. I'm remaining calm, because if we get alternatives in this window, I'm happy, because of the way we operate. If we're not willing to pay X amount, that's because we see value elsewhere that we know is attainable. That's how you manage plan A. That is how you manage plan A, people. You chase that target. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. You chase it. You put the work in. You put the love, the time, the care, the nurture that it deserves. Like we have been calling Mudryk, we've been doing all of that. Arteta speaking to him, etc. Everything like that, telling him that you're the player that you want. We chase plan A, but if you're not willing to go crazy in the transfer fee, guys, not the wages, yeah, then you better have alternatives. And that's all I'm going to say on that point. We'll have to wait and see what they will be. But I'm sure we'll do another show at the end of the transfer window, reviewing what has happened and if we're not able to get this player and whatnot. And I'll give me my thoughts then. But let me go into the comments, and I'm gonna have a look at them, because guys, make sure you get them in. Guys, I'm going all the way back from about 40 minutes ago. But yeah, thank you to each and every one of you locked in. Let me know your thoughts and feelings. And do you agree? Do you disagree with what I've said? And is there any points that you'd like to add on? Tezzy in the place, the first comment saying, I don't blame the club for not getting into a bidding war with Chelsea, but this one hurts. It certainly does hurt. And we, as fans, when we want a player, we're allowed to. Fans are emotional. We're allowed to be. And when we have our hearts and everything looks set to get a player, we think about tactically how he's going to fit in here. The tactical breakdowns that FK at the Latte Firm, Tom at the Gooner Talk TV do an excellent job on, and research, and we invest emotionally into a player. He was invested so much into us as well. We think it's going to happen. So this is allowed to hurt for sure. And bidding war with Chelsea, yeah. Maybe Chelsea would have spent even more. Guys, do you think Chelsea would have, if we went 100 million, do you think they're going on 120? I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all. King in here saying, main question is, should Edu have been faster when the club had scouted the player for so long? And that, I think that's a brilliant point. I don't think I spoke about it. That is what I will say, and that's the balance what's provided in here. What Edu does need to do, and I think I mentioned it in terms of, I thought about it. I don't think I mentioned it, but sorry. I do think that's an area of improvement for Edu in being faster. If we're willing to pay X amount of money, I'm sure this is business tactics that we might not understand. In terms of, if we go in too quickly, then we might even raise the valuation even more and whatnot. But looking at it in hindsight, I think we can say we should bid properly and closer to the evaluation and closer to the end goal, and try and get things done earlier. in less bids, in the second bid be the final bid and not the third, or even consider a fourth, and not give Chelsea time to do this. Because would Chelsea have done this earlier in the window without the injuries to Pulisic, Sterling? Possibly not. And we might have been able to get the player in. So I do think that is an area of improvement. And I'm sure he'll look at this. Edu's not perfect. He's only human after all. So should we have been faster? If Arsenal were willing to release the funds, we don't know all the behind the scenes. Maybe there had to be conversations within the club to release these funds, and then who gets the blame. But let's say the club, right? The club should have acted faster if we're willing to pay that much for a player. Big up Daddy and a Don. Big up yourself. Is it Phil? I'm sure it is. And if it was Graham, it would be on his account. But big up yourself. Sorry, T. I'm at work, but think you didn't need to buy him, especially for the price. And with the players you currently have, I don't see as a need. Have a great stream. Big up yourself, Phil. And I'm guessing the way you're talking it is yourself. And I hope you're keeping well and hope you're keeping safe as well. And have a good time at work. And I disagree to a certain extent, because I do think we need players in terms of depth. But if you where I kind of agree is for the price, if we get value elsewhere, or if we get another player that we deem is more closer to that value, we might end up spending more, maybe less. I know we kind of think straight away that if we're not going to, if we don't pay that much for Mudryk, we might go for less or something, and maybe we might go for more. But maybe Arteta really wanted Mudryk for another reason, or the club wanted Mudryk because they thought of value in terms of the risk was lower in terms of the wages because of what he's on at Shakhtar and how much that we'd need to offer him. And it would be easier to sell him if he failed at Arsenal because of the wages. If he didn't perform great at Arsenal and he couldn't break past Martinelli, but showed a decent level. A bit like, let's say, Pepe, for example. A big issue with Pepe wasn't the transfer fee, guys. The big issue with Pepe was the wages offered to him. That's why we're having to send him out on loan and he's having to defer wages and whatnot. That's where the issue lies, guys. It's always within the wages, not really the transfer fee. If you operate in such a way, you can overspend on a transfer fee and you can still make decent money in wages. Chelsea, to be honest, before what's his name, kind of before 2016, before Todd Burley came in, they were like that. How many times did Chelsea spend ridiculous money on players and then make money back? And we're out here saying, how the heck have Chelsea managed to do this? How have Chelsea managed to spend 50 million on David Luiz and get 50 million back with him not really proven to be worth it? That's why they did operate with a wage structure, and they in terms of they had their issues as well, not being able to keep players beyond 30, and whatnot. But that's since changed, and that's why it's a massive thing in terms of how you structure these deals in the player's perspective, not really in the transfer fee. Matt G in the place, big up yourself. He says, I'm disappointed, but we're right to not overspend. Big up yourself, Matt G, my brother. I hope you're keeping well. And I agree with here. And I feel those exact same thoughts right there too. Big up yourself, Red Devil Yannick. I'm sure you're feeling happy after yesterday. I don't blame Edu for Mudryk. Chelsea offered the player 100k per week, whatever how much it is, the 7.5-year contract. To offer double and then a 7.5-year contract. You'd be stupid to reject that. Honestly, you would be. You would be stupid. Just even because, like, the man could break his leg or get injured and never be the same man again, or get a knee injury. And his game is, and the attractiveness of Mudryk is that pace and directness and that intensity. And if that was lost, and that's why I don't blame him for jumping ship to Chelsea now, and that desire to join Chelsea is great, and join the Premier League, he's great. And when the offer's there, you can't say no, man. Honestly, that's why I'm not too mad at him. You can't say no from his point of view. Muddy Rick is gone. We move forward, and let's hope that we do, man. Let's hope that the club have moved forward, and hearing reports and other targets and stuff that we're trying to sort out now. So I hope that we've got that mentality, Peony. I hope that we do as a club, because I've got that now, certainly. Big up Luke, and he says Arsenal's bid in the end was only €5 million less than Chelsea. Had we not faffed about so much, Mudryk would have been an Arsenal player weeks ago. And Luke, I agree with you in a certain extent. And yeah, that kind of links in with what the point I was talking about with King. In fact, I see that. And maybe if we would have done it, as I said, in the second bid, maybe we would have been able to get him, and maybe then Chelsea wouldn't have been so committed. But who knows? Who knows, Luke? Yeah. In terms of that, because maybe Chelsea still would have been crazy. Maybe they would have, if they felt Arsenal. Maybe Chelsea did it because they were taking their time and seeing where Arsenal, where are they, where are Shakhtar willing to accept and getting close to accepting, and then whatever they do, then we slap it down. Maybe that was Chelsea's approach all day long. If we would have offered it then, maybe they would have offered it then as well for the player. Because we don't know. The thing is, Luke, we know our interest has been for a while. We don't know how long Chelsea have been interested for, which is why it's been of such a surprise for Chelsea fans when that first broke through and they were breaking. It was like, that's the first time they heard about it. And Chelsea have been so public with their approaches, so maybe that was the initial point. But who knows? They are copying our homework. It just feels like it, indeed. Not correct, Luke. Let's see today's Gooner talk where he's explained it's not just 5 mil difference. Yeah, overall the wages and that as well. The wages, the transfer fees and the wages. We're never really going to get 100% on them, are we? All the accountants in our fan base will be delighted we haven't spent any money. Do you see? This is what we're saying now, Luke, because we have to be accountants. Do you know why, Luke? Because of how the clubs are run. And the reason why we have to be accountants, if we spend money and splash the cash on Mudryk, and that leaves us not getting a midfielder in this transfer window or in the summer, then we're suffering. Then we're the ones who are going to suffer. So I'd rather, if you get a player who can still be a success for cheaper, and then get another midfielder in who will be a success, 2 players for more, not even for the price of one, but closer to the price of one. So say if we spend 120 million or 110 million on a midfielder and a forward, that's more than what we'll spend on Mudryk. But then we've got better value for money in that sense. If they're all a success, even if Mudryk was a success and whatnot, it's that's why we have to be accountants. That's why we have to look at these things, and that's why we have to, because of how the club operates. If you're a Newcastle fan, if you're a Chelsea fan, no point being accountants, because your club certainly aren't. So that's where the mentality comes from. That's why Man City haven't ever had to really think about wages and whatnot. But Manchester City aren't getting taken a mick out of, aren't getting taken a pee. You know what I mean? Because they operate in such a way as well. 5 million difference is in the price, so Arsenal did spend as much, basically. If the reported figures are correct, then yeah, but that's where the wages are going crazy. Chelsea's project is sponsoring FM24. Big up yourself, and yeah. I like that one. It is an FM project. My only criticism is that after scouting the player for so long and wanting to pay that fee on so low wages, should Edu have been back? Yeah. That's the one I answered earlier. That's the only thing. But then Chelsea have still paid the money anyway. I don't blame Mudryk. The contract will set him and his family up for life. Exactly, Matt. Exactly. Big up yourself, Steve Stone. Hi, everybody. Give Edu a statue, in my opinion, costing Chelsea an extra 50 million. Come on, you Gooners. Hey, who knows? This might be all a part of the master plan. We'll have to wait and see, indeed, eventually. I hope it is. I hope it is. We drove the price up for them. Muddy didn't get his choice, nor did we. That's life. We love. We move forward, yeah, and we do love as well. Indeed, I agree, man. I agree. And This is the problem that we do as football fans, right? This is the issue. We see this shiny toy that we want and that's available now. We have this now or never die now or never aspect in terms of how we look at players. And if we don't get this player, then we failed, and we're not gonna. There's not gonna be another player like him, guys. There's always another player. There is. It might not be right at that moment. That's at that level or at that who's available to get, but there's always another player, and there will be another player. Who was talking about Kvaratskhelia 6 months ago? Look at him now, 100 million worth. He's got to be more than that now. If Mudryk's worth this much, Kvaratskhelia has got to be more than that now. He's got to be. Anthony and whatnot. So, guys, these shiny toys. Rafinha, that was the one for us, and I like Rafinha. I like the player, and I'd be delighted if he came to Arsenal. But Mudryk was the next talk, and we all forgot about Rafinha then. Remember when Basuma came to Tottenham? All the Arsenal fans all in uproar. Buendia. You know what I mean, guys? There's always another player. There is. In general, I'm not mad at Arsenal. Didn't get into a bidding war with Chelsea or pay 100 million for such an improving talent. Yeah, I agree. I agree. The 100 million part, yeah. If Arsenal were close to spending that, then fair play, and that's why it's disappointing in the end. But the wages is the big thing, man. Question: will Arsenal get a fine from the FA for not getting Mudryk? Possibly so. How would you see watching the Man United game yesterday? And Man United and Man City players surrounding the referee. I better see a 40k fine right on that table. Please make sure you give it. These were my notes that I was talking about, so I could structure it. There better be a fine in that sense. But yeah, Chelsea. Speaking about fines, though, FFP. Yeah, FFP is a bit of a madness at the moment because FFP, guys, it's not based upon debt and it's not, well, it is based upon debt, but not debt within the club. It's about a financial loss. Chelsea are going to be a madness, surely. I know it's based over 3 years and they've been in the Champions League and that recently and they're trying to get straight back in there, but that amount of money, and then what are they going to buy more players after that as well? I don't know. Does Xhaka deserve a red card for not signing Mudryk? I like how you're going with this. I do. I really do. I would 100% rather have my club behave like Arsenal than Chelsea in the transfer window. Big up yourself, know-how in the place. He was a Manchester United fan. And that's why I'm not crazy. That's why I'm not mad at how the club is being run. The risks, the rewards, of course, of Chelsea's great, but the risk is even greater. And Arsenal, you can't complain too much right now at where the club is at. Yes, you can vent your frustrations at, I don't believe we're going to win the league, and if we lose out on the league because of this, it's clear to see, then that will make me mad. But let's not be too angry right now. Let's not be too frustrated with certain amount of days in the transfer window. How many days we got left? What are we on, the 15th? So we got 16 days left, guys? Come on. Let's not get too frustrated. Focus on this game. If you're frustrated, and don't let, if we lose to Tottenham, be, because we didn't have Mudryk or such. Come on. Let's not be that fickle. Let's not be that simple as well. Guys, as long as we get alternatives in, that's what the main part is. Zinchenko was an alternative, yeah? To Lisandro Martinez. And we did the same compilations and scouting videos and tactical breakdowns for Martinez as well. So, guys, let's not get too bad. But let's just be prepared, and let's take this as another lesson in the future when we're linked with ex-player and that. If they're highly regarded, let's be prepared to lose out. Let's be prepared because of how the club operates and how we're willing to go. Man United, if they move like a proper club now with their new owners or whatnot, they're going to lose out on players too. Newcastle, they're going to lose out on players if they move like that, but it depends on how they move. Manchester City, it's rare for them to lose out on players because they're winning. That's why. Because they're winning leagues and they've got the best manager in the world. Transfer fees, I don't think there's really much problem with overpaying on a transfer fee if you believe that player is going to be worth it. Liverpool, for goodness sakes, you don't think that Van Dijk and Alisson were overpaying for Van Dijk and Alisson at that point in time, but the wages helped in terms of if they do fail, they can sell them on. That's why Liverpool were able to sell Dominic Solanke and whatnot for like 20 mils and stupid amounts of money and make their profits, and Coutinho for a ridiculous amount of money because the wages weren't demanding too high, but then clubs were stupid enough like Barcelona to pay those wages and they couldn't get rid of them and whatnot. So guys, think about these things as well. There's no problem with overpaying for a player in the transfer fee, but there is if you're going crazy on the wages, because that has a knock-on effect around the club when you're trying to attract other players and whatnot. Even greater than that. 7-year contract also helps with FFP, apparently, from a few sources. Yeah, it's about amortization, which is in terms of it's an asset in terms of that sense, and it's an asset that's over a longer period. It's moreover to do with there's not an increase in basically packs. So after the 3 years or so, there's not going to be an increase in not the fees and that. So they're not going to have an extra loss. Do you know what I mean? In terms of that, when it comes to, it's hard to explain. There's better people to put words into it, but there's going to be a less, there's not as much investment in the end. Yeah, it's more to do with that. There's better people to talk about that than me, if you get what I'm saying. Given how long we take to do anything, do you have any confidence that Edu can sign any players with 2 weeks left? I do. Do you know why, Luke? Do you know why I have confidence? Because after the Lisandro Martinez failure, when he was clear to go to Manchester United, we signed Alexander Zinchenko. We signed Gabriel Jesus relatively quickly. I know at the time it felt like ages and whatnot from Arsenal fans, but I think we signed him relatively quickly in that sense, given the fact that Chelsea were willing to hijack the deal then also and offer him ridiculous amounts of money. Fabio Vieira, I think we got that deal wrapped up under secret, signed, sealed, delivered out of nowhere. And there's some of the big ones. We got Benjamin White quite early in. I know these are summer transfers. We're yet to see in January. The only January signing that we've made of of much note was the loan deal for Ødegaard. So yeah, I do have confidence in Edu that he can do it. I do have that confidence and hope as well. But yeah, I can see why you're doubting, Luke. I can definitely see why, because we didn't get anyone last January. And we haven't really done him in the January window. So you're more than right to have that opinion. And maybe I'm deluded. Nah, I don't think so, because I've given you those perspectives there. Big up Peony as well. Are we top of the league? Yes, we are. Did we do that without Mudryk? Yes, we did. Do we have Super Mick Arteta? Indeed. Is the meltdown too early? Indeed. Am I asking too many questions? No. Was the answer yes or no? I don't know. I got confused then. Am I running out the chat? No, PD, big up yourself. And yes, we do indeed have Super Mick Arteta. And I agree. And those are the answers to those questions there. My points I made in the 1 a.m. debate within the Discord, where I said having a strict business model is better. My brother Paxton. Yeah, you know it. And this is, do you know what? This is why kind of, me and Man United fans, we have like a love-hate relationship, yeah. I love and hate Man United fans, of course. The reasons why I hate them. But the reason why I love them, because we share so much of the same pain, and we've been through these same experiences. We've been through it where players have sucked our club dry, yeah, certain wages. We thought were good investments at the time. You're telling me Sir Alex Ferguson, when he's talking about Phil Jones, saying he's the best English centre-back out there, Man United fans weren't gassed? You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. And Phil Jones has ran your club dry. You know what I'm saying? Come on. When Pogba was brought in, boom and all of that. That's one of the best central midfielders. He did well to a certain extent. But then when then things weren't going well. You know what I mean? We went through those. We've been through that. When you signed Alexis Sanchez, oh yeah, Van Persie 2.0. Do you know what I mean? Guys, we've been through that, and that's from Man United's perspective. We went through it. We smashed our our wage budget. We broke our wage structure for Ozil. We went broke. It was already broken for Aubameyang, and then I think someone else has said it in the comments here. We'll get into it when we talk about Arsenal, because I think someone spoke about the Ramsey situation, which I definitely agree with. The guy is 22 with 30 plus appearances. He's not a 19-year-old. Do you know what I'm know how? So true. So true. Big point right there. Because I was talking about this mum. Bellingham, right? He's laughing. Like, how much? If Mudryk's worth 100 and Bellingham 150, guys, Bellingham's a bargain. Bellingham is a bargain. What, you're paying 50 million extra for someone who's what, 3-4 years younger? And he's way more experienced at the top level and way more proven. Guys, I think, do you know what I'm saying? The transfer market is mad. And Darwin Núñez is a steal now. He is. That's a steal. The brother's at least scored goals. Do you know what I mean? He scored for his country. Mudryk's, I know I'm muddying Mudryk right now, but that just shows you how crazy the market is at the moment. And Chelsea are mashing up this thing. They are. Madness. Just say it to you. He's rubbish, and you never. He's crap. I never wanted him anyway. I feel like I'm one of those guys, you know, when they try and move to a girl and then they get rejected. That's what I'm doing. He's rubbish. Never wanted him anyway. I've just cussed him there, haven't I? Big up Steve. He says, if Arsenal matched Chelsea's bid and Mudryk's wages, do you feel it would have been a negative or positive outcome on Saka's, Martinelli's, Saliba's ongoing negotiations? Steve, brilliant question. I know your answer to this, and I agree with you. I think it would definitely have been a negative outcome on Saka's, Martinelli's, and Saliba's ongoing negotiation. For sure. Definitely. Because, guys, I'm if you don't understand in the way that Steve's worded his question is, guys, we splashed 200k or 100k, whatever, on Mudryk or whatever Chelsea have put down. The players will know about that. Of course, players talk, people talk, agents talk, and whatnot. The players will know about that, and whatever we're offering in terms of Saka and Martinelli, 100k, it could be 200k, and they're looking at Mudryk, and my man's on this much, and you just signed him. I need to up mine by about 253 to 250 to 300, please. And it's for what, 21-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, guys. That's where it's dangerous. And it's so dangerous to do so because it kind of reminds me of the Jadon Sancho deal with Man United. When you're offering a young player that much, the scope is ridiculous. You're going to go even higher. So eventually, let's say if we offered Saka a 4 or 5 year contract, they're going to have to sign another contract if they want to remain at the club. What the heck is that contract going to be? If we're going to give him a 300k wage, you're talking 400 to 500k. That's ridiculous. Do you know? And that's mad. And that's just to keep the players. And that's so you're paying millions and millions just to keep players. I know it's going to cost you millions and millions to replace them. But that's crazy. And then that's not sustainable for how Arsenal want to approach. So it's a brilliant question there, Steve. I like that one indeed. It would affect the outcome. We have seen it affect outcomes of other players' contracts before, whether they've been given a new contract, whether you sign a player. And then also, let's say, imagine we sign Mudryk, Martinelli's there. Martinelli's still starting over him, and Martinelli's performing well. Because if Martinelli continues to perform how he's performing, it's going to be difficult for Mudryk to break into the side and get above him. Martinelli's like, I'm playing more minutes than this guy. It's not I'm better. I'm playing more minutes. My value to the team is higher. I want this amount. You're offering him that money. I'm X amount times more important than this player. Mudryk, let's say Mudryk fails, and they're risking every transfer to fail. There's been bankers, there's been home runs where you think that signing's going to succeed, he's going to be all good, and it don't work for whatever reason. He's not mentally at it. He's homesick. He doesn't settle, whatnot, etc. We have a player that fails on that amount of money, and we're like, and then injuries. What exactly, guys? We'd be finished. We'd be right back at square one where we just got rid of players for X amount of reasons. yeah, it's true. If we have players within the club that are money hungry and that, bro, they can go elsewhere. We ain't gonna offer them that. We know that, and we might lose out on some of our key players and great players. But if we as long as we replace them well, we're Arsenal Football Club at the end of the day. Arsenal Football Club. We're not Player FC. We're not doing that. We're not Twitter. Okay, we're Arsenal Football Club. One goals, and it might break our heart. If it was Saka, it would break our heart even more, of course, because that's a homegrown talent. That's someone that we've pledged, and that's a different scenario. Let's say worst case scenario now, Saliba goals, and he's like, nah, I'm getting the bag at like Real Madrid or something. Guys, we'll be disappointed, and we'll be like, what could we have done better, man? We'll be asking ourselves as fans, should we break the back? This guy's he's going to go on to be the best centre back in the world. But then we could get a decent centre back. It might not be as good as Saliba, and Saliba might win and go and be the best in the world. I'm not saying I don't want this to happen, by the way. I want Saliba to stay. But then it doesn't mean that Arsenal aren't going to be successful without him. And we can't success is dependent on William Saliba. That's not how football works. It's not how football works. It never has been. And that's why Man United have been. That's why Alex Ferguson deserves every single bit of praise, and Wenger to a certain extent. But Ferguson, he got the success. He won. He won without big players. Remember Roy Keane? Remember Cristiano Ronaldo? Remember when even Rooney wanted to leave and that? Like, you move on. You can. Football's amazing. That's why we love the beautiful game. And brilliant point, Steve. Because that money would mean he'd come in as a start. Exactly. He'd have to start. He'd have to start. If you put a player like that on the bench, and that's based on nothing what we've seen in an Arsenal shirt, by the way, and that's great, Peony, exactly, because he'd have to start. He'd have to earn that money. It's crazy. Is there an LD today or Chelsea playing in our place? They're paying in our place. That's what they are. Never rated the Ukrainian Obertan anyway. I like this. We've moved on. A lot of us. Who's more upset with this deal, Arsenal or Chelsea fans? Well, we're more upset. I think there is a lot of frustration from Chelsea fans, though, because they're like, if we're willing to pay this much on Mudryk, who, yeah, we kind of need a winger, but that's not the pressing concern. Why aren't we paying this for Enzo Fernandez? That's what they're saying. Mr. Bombastic, hope you're doing well. I refuse to get bantered when we are playing the best football in the country. There's more players in the world. Mr. Bombastic, totally agree. There's more players in the world. It's not, even if we lose, as I said, Saliba, and if we don't get such and such, Mudryk, that's not his name, such and such, Mudryk, there is more other players in the world that we can get, even if we can get now and might be able to do a stopgap and do well on a cheap fee. And then in the summer, there might be someone else available. And Rafael, that's the dream. That's the dream who we'd get. Totally agree. Let's see. Man City aren't selling to us. No way, they're not. I think I heard like something in reports that Man City aren't dealing with Arsenal like that again anymore, and that's why they were probably all out to try and get Saka. Go all the way back to George Graham. He publicly stated the dressing room was in tatters when Alan Ball signed a much higher wage. Steve, exactly that. And although football has changed in certain elements and in certain aspects, humans haven't really changed that much. Do you know what I mean? In terms of how we naturally think and how we let money get to our heads, money and power, that's always been the same ever since, I'm talking biblical times. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's always been the same. So that's not going to have changed when it gets in. And Steve, this is why I love you, man. And this is why I love having each and every one of you guys in the comments, because you add in such great points into this. And I really am enjoying it, and you're making it even better, and you're making me understand even better. And I hope I'm helping you, giving you guys a different perspective as well. He publicly stated the dressing room was in tatters. That's what wages can do. That's why I'm so pressed on. And that's why Mudryk, do what you need to do, man. Yeah, like young 22-year-old, got to get the bag, go get it, secure it. 7 years, but I'm not at my expense, not at my club's expense, where I watch us getting tatters. Imagine we've got a worse squad in terms of depth now than we've had previously, but we're top of the league. There's correlations, guys. There's morale correlations, not just in quality, but in mentality. That's the difference at the top level of football. Anyway, the quality level in actual ability is minute, is minuscule. It's not even full percentages. It's 0 points, 0.1 percentages. That the difference, the 20%, it's all in there. All in there. That's why credit Ten Hag to see Ten Hag. My respect for Ten Hag is crazy. My respect for Arteta is even greater because it's obviously the club that I've supported and I've watched and I've felt the pain and whatnot. So yeah, definitely agree. Todd Burley's playing Football Manager with the editor switched on. We hear about him playing Football Manager, but the editor, that's exactly what he's doing because the money we're seeing is madness. Big up yourself, Louis. Yep, feel sorry for us. Mudryk was twerking for years, but money talks in it. That's why I'm not blaming him. That's why I'm not blaming the man. And go get the bag. Yeah, not at my expense. Not at my expense. Let's see. Let's go through a couple more, and then I'm gonna wrap up. But guys, don't worry, I will be back again. Make sure you subscribe if you're new as well. I'll be doing a watch along for the North London derby with my Arsenal colours on. Come on, people. Big game. We could go 8 points clear, by the way. 8 points at the top. Come on. This is what we want to see. If we win. And then Man United next. Man City have got Tottenham after. Man City's bogey team's Tottenham. But I guess Tottenham's our bogey team when we go to their ground. I think Tottenham could do it against them on Thursday, especially if we beat them today. Don't want to give them that a little bit of confidence. No, we can't financially compete with Qatar FC and Saudi Arabia FC. Indeed. I agree, Luke. That's why we have chosen another path, I suppose, going down the youth route. Yep, getting the best talents in the world to believe in our project and believe in us and be willing to accept less, and because they see the opportunity, the window that we're going to give these players right now, the young players, and that's why eventually the fruits of the tree that Chelsea are sowing the seeds will show, and the young players in the future may get turned away. The reason why it's quite attractive right now is because it's a new project at the moment at Chelsea. It's a new ownership, and they're willing to spend now so much money. So they can talk a lot. They can talk a lot now, but it will show eventually. It will show. Long-term plan. Steve, that's fine, but those young men will want to get paid at some point. So Project Youth could become Sell the Youth once again. But we're going to succeed now with these young players. I'm not saying we're gonna, but we look like we're on a path to succeeding, which will ultimately allow the spending to increase and our wages to naturally increase with them. And that's less risk on the club, isn't it, though, Luke? Do you know what I mean? Like, if we can I'm happy to give Martinelli, Saka, and Saliba them 200k a week pluses. If we're winning Premier Leagues, it's not great to have these players when you're not succeeding, because they're going to be on that money and still going to want to leave anyway, because they're going to end up leaving for trophies. Do you know what I mean? So, but then it swings in roundabouts. They're going to want to get paid, but they're going to want to win trophies as well. Man City sold Jesus, and are they any worse without? Well, I think they are actually. Yes, Man City are worse without Jesus and Zinchenko from a squad depth perspective. First, if you're talking about player for player, Haaland, I don't think so. But yeah, it swings in roundabouts. Big up yourself, DB. Both our wingers at home deserve new contracts, much bigger than Mudryk's. I know DB's put a few comments in here as well, which I'm going to get to them. I'm going to scroll down to see a little bit more, because I can see you guys chatting with each other in the comments as well. Really, I love that. Love the interaction. What level of pay do you think here Arsenal? What level of pay do people think in here think Arsenal should offer Saka? To Saka, Saliba, and Martinelli. I think they deserve. I think Saka especially deserves minimum 200k minimums. Saliba for 150s, and Martinelli. I guess another thing is you also got to weigh out how much other people are offering them, and then base your gauge on that as well. Because how if I'm sure agents will say, we've been in contact with Chelsea, we've been in contact with Barcelona. They're willing to offer my player 300k. He's happy here and he wants to stay. So can you just get near closer to that than what you originally thought? I think those are the types of things that happen in the negotiation rooms. Saka, Saliba, and Martinelli do seem happy at Arsenal. So I'm not saying, if you want to keep them, you're going to have to offer them just as much, at least, and more. Now, I don't think that's the case because they're settled, they're happy. They'll just use those valuations just to get closer to whatever Barcelona. If we're offering them 150k and Barcelona are offering them 300, they're gonna be like, yeah, I mean, like they're happy here, but we need to get at least a 200. Do you know what I'm saying, to make up the difference? So the difference isn't as big. He wanted Champions League, so no, he didn't go for the right reasons. He wanted money, exactly, so he didn't. I pay them. Hi, Luke. They have proven themselves in our setup and a big part of why we're so excited. Exactly. So they deserve to get those high payments. I do agree in that sense. So yeah, I agree. And they're young as well. They've got age and time on their side to even develop. And we can see the clear development. And this is DB. This was the comment that I saw. If you're still in here, DB, I appreciate you, man. Because remember when Ozil was on 200k a week? At 350, doing nothing, exactly. And Aaron Ramsey scored every game, and we couldn't agree a contract with him. That's why we shouldn't throw silly money. And then even a great point, an excellent point right there, DB. And do you know what's an even better one, DB? What happened with Aaron Ramsey? And I'm not even better on the level. Aaron Ramsey following that, what did he get at Juventus? 400k X a week, yeah. What happened? The player regressed, and you're almost setting the player up to fail at that sense. Unless you've got a Ronaldo mindset or a Messi mindset, you're gonna fail. How are you not gonna feel life's complete if you're doing that? Do you know what I mean? And look at Juventus, the issues that they've got right now. Taking long shows proper due diligence. On the flip side, indeed, that is correct. A question. Just realised that Saka is currently earning a third of what Lingard earns at Nottingham Forest. Arsenal can't sustain that wage structure, surely. We've been able to do it so far, and I'm sure as the team naturally progresses that we will increase that in that sense. I think the structure remains the same in terms of that, but then the money, as our money increases, so will their wages. Do you know what I mean? I'm going off the scale. So Arsenal, the level we've been at has been there. And we've got the players to buy into the project. We are achieving this. The wages are still here. I'm sure the wages will come up. I'm sure they were the will to match, or they won't. I just don't want the wages going above where the club's performing. Know how the club has to always be in front of the wages. It's a race, because if that's in there, it's causing problems for us. As long as we got that. I hope that analogy is good. We're going to end up with no one now. We've shown our hand. I don't think that's the case, my bro. I really don't think that's the case. I don't think we've shown our hand now, and other clubs know our budget. I don't think that's how it works. I think Luke, I reckon we've actually got more than that. I think we've got way more money than that to spend in terms of that, but we just don't see the player as value for that. I think it kind of you can't look at it in a sense of a budget perspective. It's more to do with if Arsenal don't value this player, they're not willing to go crazy. They're not really. So if Arsenal are the only team interested in this player, they're not willing to go mad amounts of money. And if the player's desperate to go, and we're kind of in a financial situation where we do need to let go of him, they're not going to go crazy. Do you know? So I don't think that is the case. I think it's just more Arsenal, way more. They're going to be harder to negotiate with. We're not going to be able to do Arsenal dirty in that sense. Let's get Chelsea involved. That's what we'll do. That's what they'll do. Do you want this player? Do you want him? Arsenal want him. Do you want him? That's what Chelsea will do. In that sense. Let me scroll down. I want to get into some other people's comments that I haven't gone through yet. Big up yourself, big up each and every one of you as well. It's just scrolling. We've got new people in the chat as well. I really appreciate you all. I'm trying to get to some people that I haven't read the comments of before. So let's get into it. Big up Mr. Wesbird in the place. He says, morning people, mad money. Glad we didn't sign him. There will be someone else. It's football. Things happen. Come on, you Gunners. Big up yourself, Mr. and Mrs. Wesbird as well. I really do appreciate you. And 100% agree. There's always someone else. There is. What do we tell? I've used the relationship analogy already, and I'm going to use it again. If it don't work out with a girl or a guy, there's plenty of fish in the sea. There is still someone else out there. Yes, it may feel it's devastating. You deal with that heartbreak, and it does take time to recover. Us as emotionally as fans, but we'll be fine, man. As soon as the beautiful thing with football is things happen quickly. Things can change very quickly, as we saw yesterday with Mudryk. But yeah, things can change very quickly. And also, if we win today, come on, you Gunners, that will lift the mood of us for sure. Good morning to yourself, Mrs. Wesbird in the place. Morning to all you gorgeous people. Edward says, shame on Arsenal. It's not about the money, it's the quality. It is about the money. The money does talk. Money has proven to be a better. Man United certainly have a lot of quality, and they had a lot of quality last season. It didn't work out though, did it? Because the players' mentalities weren't in the right places, and that's what the money can dictate as well. FFP has no rules, P&E coming in soon from my research. Hopefully so. But in PD's humble but accurate opinion, we're still top of the league. Exactly. FFP is proof that Orwell's quote, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. I hear what you're saying. I do. Edward, come on, man. Edward, let's be calm. Let's be calm and relaxed about this. We still can win with Eddie and Nketiah up front. We don't. Yes, we wanted this guy. We need a left winger. We don't necessarily need a Mudryk. Do you know what I'm saying? Don't worry, Edward. Come on, man. Lift the spirits up, my bro. If we win today, I better be in the chat for the watch long if we win, for sure. You're more than welcome if we lose as well. I'm sure that you won't be the only one feeling that way. Exactly. 100 million is more money than it was last year, of a cost of living obviously increasing, and its businesses too. It is true. He's had to remove all the deadwood, then rebuild. So we have to be patient. Exactly. We've removed all the deadwood. It's taken us so long. And why would we create? I'm not saying Mudryk's deadwood, but we could create more deadwood in that sense. As I said earlier, with the knock-on effect that it could create. If we sign Mudryk. As I said, Mudryk, we could have signed him. Could have been the best player in the club, of course, but doesn't necessarily mean it would help everywhere else if we're offering that kind of money with our wage structure. Discussions between Steven Gerrard looking like he's going to go to Poland, but waiting for his final decision, but it's being considered as reported by the Polish press. Mad. Big up yourself, Paxton. Thanks for the breaking news. Lil Yo-Yo, not going to lie, I thought Arsenal had pull. We do have pull. We do indeed. It's just that we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. We pulled two four-time Premier League winners from Manchester City. We pulled Erdegaard from Real Madrid. Do you know what I'm saying now, of course. But yeah, big up yourself, my brother. Is it JY? I hope you're keeping good, man. I know it's JY from the Asna. I know it is. Big up yourself, man. Big up yourself, Wilf in the place. Look at Man City's bench. You just can't have your first 11 and a dead bench. I agree, which is why we do need alternatives. Edward, that's why we do. You are right that we do need alternatives, and that comment is spot on. But it's not like. But if signing Mudryk means we can't sign another player in another position because we've outpriced ourselves, then Mudryk doesn't fix our bench. He adds to it and he makes it stronger, but he doesn't completely fix it. We've got other areas in the squad that we need to improve as well. Chelsea plan confirms they want to unveil Mykhailo Mudryk as a new signing today at Stamford Bridge. Understand that some of the add-ons in a 100 million package are related to Chelsea winning the Premier League or the Champions League during the 7-year contract. Those add-ons aren't too bad then. they're not too bad. But yeah, I guess it ain't too bad then. In that sense, imagine if Chelsea win the Champions League now, Mudryk does nothing. They have to pay the whole 100 million. I'm sure the fans will be happy and whatnot, but doesn't mean he's going to be a success because Chelsea won the Champions League with Havertz and they've had to pay all that money for him. And are Chelsea exactly happy with Kai Havertz at the moment? Is that a successful signing? No. So even the narrative packs, do you know what? I'm glad you brought this up. Even the narrative, oh, if we win with such and such, then if we win this with X, Y, and Z with this player, that means it's an instant success. Is Kai Havertz, is Christian Pulisic, was Timo Werner, is Mason Mount all successes at Chelsea? They've all won a Champions League. They've all won a Champions League. Winning one trophy doesn't mean you're going to get it every single year. Liverpool, this is the question. I mean, they won the Champions League and whatnot as well, but is Van Dijk a success? Yes, because Liverpool won their first Premier League in 30 years, Liverpool fans will tell you. But, has the money been proven? Has it all been? I'm sure they paid more than that. They paid all their full price because of how successful Liverpool have been. But what's it done for them? Do you know what I mean? Like, guys, long term. There's deeper things to look at. Kai Havertz certainly isn't a success, and he's won the Champions League. Do you know what I mean? If you're worried about wage structure, then we'll never sign anyone on 100+ K. No, absolutely not. No. We signed Gabriel Jesus to 200+ K a week. We're just not going to sign someone who's played 30 games, who doesn't come in as a starter on 100+ and that much. We will sign someone. I'm more than you can believe. We will sign someone easily on 200+ K a week again. If Declan Rice was to come in, he'd be on 150 minimum. Do you know what I mean? Guys, we will spend money. We will spend money. And we will offer massive wages to players. Just when it's the time's right and when it's the right player. Arsenal obviously clearly don't think that he's the right player to be offering that type of money to. So remember, Pepe, we have to be sensible and do it in my humble but accurate opinion, which is entirely correct. We have to be sensible. We offered them mad money, wages, mad money, transfer fee. And we got done dirty in the end. And it's not to say Pepe is a bad player because he's not. He's not a bad footballer at all. When you look at some of the things that he's done in an Arsenal shirt, he won an FA Cup. He did really well in a poor Arsenal side. Definitely agree. Perspective Nation, how many shirts can Mudryk sell? It cannot be more than No, it definitely can't. It can't be more than Haaland. He's not that level of talent yet. Do you know what I mean? And Haaland has a massive brand with him. Mudryk doesn't have that brand yet. He's certainly building a brand. He's certainly doing that now. Look at his followers increasing. I know he'll be in 1 million soon. But Haaland, when Haaland came in, how many millions of followers was he on? Mudryk, I don't know how much he's on now because it's increasing by the minute. But he was on like 600K, wasn't he? Which is nowhere near that type of brand. And also, I think of the Ukraine as the nation. I'm sure, they're a football-heavy nation, but Norway, the brand is big there. The brand's massive. Eddie, that guy that's putting the ball in the back of the net. Eddie, that Eddie. Indeed. It is that Eddie, indeed. We are just too good at identifying talent and getting buried by top clubs when it comes to signing. We identify a lot of talent, but we also sign a lot of our talent as well, though, Edwards. We are gonna, as I said, we're gonna lose out on talent. We are going to, because of just how much money that other clubs are willing to spend. We're not going to get, we're probably not going to get our plan A on a lot of occasions because of that. But yeah, guys, I am going to wrap up now because I feel like I might just be repeating myself a little bit too much. But guys, I really do appreciate the love and support that you've shown in the comments and just by watching. If you found it interesting, if you have enjoyed it, please like the video. Thank you, each and every one of you, for commenting. If you're watching afterwards, make sure you get in the comments after too. And if you are new, I would really appreciate it if you did decide to drop a sub to the channel. If you have enjoyed it, I will be bringing you more content like this for sure. I will appreciate, I will love that. And guys, you have been great. And big up each and every one of you who's brand new and watching. Even if you're not in the comments and you're just enjoying and you like what you're hearing, we've got plenty more of this coming. Big up yourself, Nav, in the place. He says he lost loads of followers yesterday. That's because that's the Arsenal. That's why, Nav. That is indeed. Big up yourself, Nav. And big up each and every one of you. We will be back later on. We'll be back for around 4 o'clock. So I will get the stream set up and everything. Really do appreciate you all. And guys, the mighty Arsenal playing. Come on, Arsenal. Love to you all. And we'll be back later. Come on!